or if you get the last pitch of the day, sometimes there's a little known secret that the water
Skręć w prawo.
that we have in front of us, water. And so that impacts it sometimes.
Well, I love that we started with you
Za 800 metrów skręć w lewo.
drinking with our students, and we're ending with you drinking with a bunch of founders.
Why not, right? That's what everybody tells the truth.
Mark, thank you. This has been incredibly fascinating and also unusually fun. My favorite insight from this conversation is follow your effort, not your passion. A few years ago, we did a work-life episode on the perils of following your career passion, and Mark just added a new twist to it. I've seen so many students follow their passion for a field, only to discover later that they love the outcome, but not the process. If you're thinking of becoming a writer or a musician, the question isn't whether you love reading books or listening to music. It's whether you enjoy writing and composing, to how you spend your time. There's another benefit of following your
Skręć w lewo.
effort. It gives you a window into your values, not just your passion. Psychologists find that interests can wax and wane, but meaning tends to last. Noticing where you invest your effort
Za 100 metrów na rondzie drugi zjazd.
doesn't just illuminate what you enjoy, it reveals what matters to you. Rethinking is hosted by me, Adam Grant, and produced by Ted with Cosmic Standard. Our team includes Colin
Za 150 metrów na rondzie drugi zjazd.
Helms, Eliza Smith, Jacob Winnick, Michelle Quint, Sammy Case, and Anna Phelan. This episode was produced and mixed by Cosmic Standard. Our fact checker is Paul Durbin. Original music by Hansdale Sue and Allison Leighton Brown.
So if you're a startup entrepreneur out there, how are you going to make me money?
What? You sound like Kevin there.
Yeah, no, I did. And I regretted it instantly.
Hi everyone, it's Madupa. We're taking a break this week, but we'll be back with new episodes very soon. In the meantime, we're sharing another TED Audio Collective podcast, After Hours. Every week, Harvard professors Felix Oberholzer G and Mihir Desai catch up on the latest news stories at the intersection of business and culture, like who's winning the streaming wars now, or how are celebrities changing Hollywood economics. Here's their latest episode. If you like it, get more episodes by following After Hours wherever you're listening to this.
Support for TED Talks Daily comes from Wise, a universal account for over 50 currencies. Wise is the only account you need to go global. Whether you're converting pesos to pounds or dollars to dong, Wise makes it easy to manage your money across borders. You always get the real exchange rate with no markups and no hidden fees, helping you save on currency conversion wherever your money takes you. Join 13 million people and businesses who are already saving. Learn more about how Wise could work for you at wise.com/talks.
TED Business is supported by the So What podcast from Boston Consulting Group. If you're tired of boring business experts who can't get to the point, this is the podcast for you. Think of it like chatting with a keynote speaker after their speech. You get a ton of knowledge, but in a more relaxed format. British journalist Georgie Frost uncovers the big new ideas that make up our world, from climate to kitchen, technology to travel, and business to the human brain. Follow the So What from BCG.
Za 600 metrów skręć w prawo w zjazd.
Wherever you find your podcast.
Hello everyone, you're listening to
Skręć w prawo w zjazd.
After Hours. I'm Felix.
I'm me here.
And I'm Young Lee.
And we're back after a long summer.
It's so good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Although,
Yeah.
Mihir, are you back, really? Because Mihir's on leave this year, Felix.
Oh.
I mean, look at him. Does he look like he's fully back?
He looks very relaxed.
Yeah, I am pretty relaxed.
So what does it mean you're on leave, Mihir?
I know, academia is so from another era. So we have these sabbaticals. I've never taken one, and I'm taking one. It means that my formal teaching is not happening, and it's a chance to restore oneself, experiment, learn, lots of great stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Wonderful.
And you both have been like my tutors on this, because I think you both had wonderful
Yes.
renewal leaves. So I'm
Yes.
like very excited to try to make the most of this one.
And then it goes by so quickly because you envision yourself
Yeah. Yes.
having all of this time,
Yeah,
but it goes
exactly.
by very
In
quickly.
that sense, it is like vacation, right? Where you think, oh my God, 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks
Yeah.
goes by before you know it.
Yeah.
Or like the summer that
Yeah.
just flew by, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's so good to be back.
It is really
I'm
great
so
to be
happy
back.
we're doing after hours again.
Me too. And it's great to have young me here, especially
Yeah.
to begin the season. It's really fantastic.
Wonderful.
I'm excited.
And over the course of the season, we'll have lots of different folks coming in, and of course, young me will be hopefully joining us as much as she can. But we're really looking forward to another season.
It's going to be so fun.
And so we brought some provocative questions today.
Yeah. Young me,
Yes.
what'd you bring?
Well, I brought a couple. I'll share with you my first one. My first provocative question is, are we witnessing the slow death of Facebook?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And do you
I
like the
love
dramatic
that.
way I said it?
Yeah. You gotta add some music in the background.
Yeah.
Dun, dun.
So give me one that you guys brought in.
So I'm interested in second chances, and in particular, Adam Newman from WeWork is back with a big investment from a really major venture capital fund. And so I want to talk about whether we believe in second chances in this case and in general.
Okay.
Like it.
Okay.
What about you, Felix?
I would like to talk about the war for talent. It's heating up in lots of places with increasing compensation for many groups. And then we're really at a strange moment where maybe it's getting better, maybe it's getting worse, and I would love to know how you think about it.
Sounds great.
Yes, that sounds good.
Let's do it. All right, young me, Facebook, slow death.
Okay, so the origin of this question is as follows. So one of the things I was reflecting on this summer is how so many of our biggest companies seem to be transitioning to their next chapter and in the process redefining their brand identity. So for example, Apple is well into its evolution into a full-fledged product and services company with a much more expansive brand identity.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon has redefined its identity from just being e-commerce for everyday goods. It's now pushing into healthcare and entertainment. Walmart is playing with membership services.
Mhm.
And in each one of these cases, the direction of the company is pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not they'll succeed, of course, is another story, but you have a sense of where they're going and what they're doing.
Right.
And then there's Facebook. The weaker version of my question is, when we look at Facebook, are we looking at a company that is experiencing a full-blown identity crisis? The stronger version of the question is, are we actually witnessing the slow death of Facebook?
One angle that I find particularly interesting is just how strong reactions are to the slightest change in economics. You might remember this summer, I think the number of monthly active users fell by 0.1%, and it wipes billions off of the balance sheet. And you go like, how can that be? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're seeing in these strong market reactions is exactly your sense, that even though the numbers look okay today, something has fundamentally changed. The kind of enthusiasm that Facebook experienced for a very long time, just the astonishing global growth. I mean, 1/3 of humanity is on Facebook even today, but somehow there's no imagination. I find the metaverse announcements so dull, so uninspiring, lacking any substance that will get your pulse racing.
Yeah.
And I think we see it in these reactions, that there's just deep uncertainty and frankly deep skepticism about what the future will bring for Meta and Facebook.
Yeah. I think, young me, to your question and to your comments, Felix, I think it's a coherent strategy. I just think it's a wrong one.
Oh.
Even worse.
Meaning, I think it's a big bet on the metaverse. $10 to $15 billion of losses a year right now, which people are feeling really kind of worried about and thinking about. Why is that maybe coherent? Well, you need a game changer. The Facebook property itself, I think, is in secular decline for all kinds of reasons, because of TikTok, because of its overall maturity.
And you need a competing operating system because you don't want to be under Apple and Google's thumb anymore. So I think it's coherent. It just, I think, happens to be wrong, which is I don't think it's going to deliver what we expect it to deliver and what it's being promised to deliver. Even the original versions of it that Zuckerberg's been trotting out there, I mean, they look really amateurish.
Yeah.
So I guess I think it's coherent but wrong. Does that make sense, Young?
It does. And I think listening to both of you guys speak, it occurs to me that one of the things I think gives us confidence when we see a company transitioning to its next chapter is a sense that they continue to take care of the core.
Right.
So you look at Apple. Apple is transitioning, but they continue to take care of the core.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly with Amazon, you have a sense that the core remains strong. With Facebook, I think two things make me very uncomfortable with the state of play right now. One is there is a sense that the core is not as healthy, even as its financials might make it seem.
Right.
The landscape for advertising, it's become very clear, is about to shift in a very, very dramatic way. At any given point in the economy, there are only so many advertising dollars to go around.
Right.
So if you think about what's on the horizon for Facebook, at least 3 huge media powerhouses are now going to be selling advertising slots. Netflix, Disney, and HBO.
Yeah.
This is a huge deal for those 3 companies, of course, but it's also a huge deal for how advertising dollars get distributed more broadly. And this is not the best news for Facebook, which was already, by the way, getting squeezed by Apple changing the way it does app tracking transparency,
Right.
which has hurt Facebook's advertising as well. So on the economic side, the horizon doesn't look great there. And then when it comes to the business of Facebook itself, they really seem to be getting clobbered by TikTok, things that emulate TikTok. And if you think about what has historically given Facebook its strength as a social platform, everything is built on that social graph, that network of links of friends and family and people that you know. TikTok is completely different. It doesn't require a social graph at all. And so for Facebook to begin to copy TikTok and begin showing random videos to users, replicating the safety and the strength of its irreplicable social graph and begin to try to be more like TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have figured that out yet. And then to your point, Mihir, on the leadership side, Zuckerberg seems to have completely lost interest in the core Facebook business.
Exactly.
He's so focused on the
Yeah.
metaverse, and
Yeah.
the vision there is not inspiring, at least not yet.
I think you're nailing something on the product side, which is its inability to compete necessarily very well with TikTok. But also on the finance side, there's a question of capital allocation and whether these people are good stewards of capital. $10 to $15 billion a year on Meta. And oh, by the way, in 2021, we spent $50-60 billion buying back our stock at really high levels. And so there's this underlying question, which is, what is this guy doing? And he's kind of embodying like some futurist personality. And he's trying to build this universe. And it can go to zero. There's a set of outcomes here that include like zero on all that Meta spending. And so one has to really wonder whether the leadership is actually doing something that both the employees and the investors are going to enjoy over the longer run.
I like this point about managing capital, and then I think similar things are true about managing other assets that the company has.
Yeah.
So if you think about Instagram, probably the most important ingredient on Instagram are all of these people who have built up massive social networks.
Yeah.
Spend so much money, so much care, the endless posting, so that you build up followers that you can then monetize. The moment you go to a greater fraction of random allocation of images to imitate the
Yes.
That's a
entertainment
good
value
point.
of TikTok, you're undermining that very value.
Yeah.
So it's not confidence inspiring whenever you see companies just copy. And essentially ever since Snap, all they have been doing is copying other social media platforms.
Yes.
But if it's inconsistent with the underlying logic of your business model, I think that's particularly troublesome.
This is exactly right. The difference between replicating Snap 2 is built on a social graph.
Yes.
And so at least the engagement model is consistent with what they've done historically.
Right.
Once they start to try to emulate TikTok, it takes them in a direction that really undermines all of the investment that some of its most influential users have really depended on historically, and that can undermine the entire business.
The other part of it, which is striking to me, I think you both have nailed this idea that TikTok has changed the game and change the nature of the revenue model. And if you ape them, you undercut your essence. At the same time, what do you do with the fact that your basic model is serving an older and grayer population that is not growing as fast? One answer is no, stick to your knitting, stay to that social graph model and do it. But then the tension is, yeah, but I can't grow that base because young people are not adopting me. So I guess I'm curious, would you tell them to double down on their model, or what would you tell them to do on that core business?
Well, I would probably tell them that everybody needs an avatar and they need to do exactly like they're doing on Facebook, but they need to do it in the metaverse. Listen, I am one of the true believers in the metaverse, but not necessarily Facebook's metaverse.
Yeah.
In some sense, metaverse is maybe just too broad a term to really get any sort of confidence into what they're thinking about, what they're doing. Say in the professional setting where you might think customers are mostly businesses and will have high willingness to pay, it's very hard for me to see how avatars might replace interactions that are more information rich. If you said, well, our play is mostly in gaming and we'll have a particular take on gaming, I think that's a very big and very lucrative market. Or I can well imagine that maybe Facebook, definitely someone else, will use metaverse type technology to transform what gaming is today. But it's this broad, unclear, hazy vision that doesn't give me any confidence that they're thinking about any of these things in specific enough terms to make me really believe here is something that looks like a new business model that I can really believe in, that can be really profitable.
Yeah. Well, the good news about this conversation is it sounds like I'm not the only one that's feeling a little uneasy about this business. So let's just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we can continue it in the metaverse. We can put on our goggles.
Exactly.
Okay, so Mihir, let's see your question next.
Sure. So I love second chances and I love redemption. And I was struck by this story about Adam Neumann, founder of WeWork, who really left in quite a, I guess, disgraceful exit of sorts several years ago, in part because the valuation dropped from like 50 billion to like 3 billion, but also there were some concerns and questions about his usage of funds and other things. Well, he's back, and he's back bigger than ever in a way. So he has started a company called Flow, and one of the most important, I think, venture capital firms there is, which is Andreessen Horowitz, has backed him. And they've backed him in a big way. So they wrote him a check for $350 million, which makes the valuation of Flow more than $1 billion, instant unicorn, without having commenced operations. What is the underlying story? It's a little unclear, but kind of residential real estate and redoing residential real estate, which is in many ways a broken market, in particular the rental version of it, and trying to redo that in a way that he tried to redo commercial real estate with WeWork. And there's a crypto angle on it too, with a digital wallet, but it's all pretty under-specified, let's just say. So I'm curious what you make of this. I think there's two ways to think about this at least. One is, my God, Silicon Valley hasn't learned its lessons. And they're funding people who are these big
Połączenie GPS zostało zerwane.
visionaries, but don't know how to really build businesses. Alternatively, vision is really hard to find. And he has a vision. And he can raise money and he can do things that other founders can't do. And it makes perfect sense to back him again. I know those are two polar extremes, but I'm curious what you made of this news.
As I think about someone's character, I think I'm less influenced by, were you successful at building a really fabulous company? That actually doesn't matter that much to me. Because in particular in the WeWork case, I think you can say two things. One, he
Za 50 metrów na rondzie drugi zjazd.
has really had dramatic influence on what office spaces look like. And there was a core of a really great and valuable idea that
Za 500 metrów zjedź w lewo.
then in the end was grossly overvalued by markets and investors. So that alone for me wouldn't give me hesitation. But the kinds of things that he did while he was at WeWork, I will never forget. He trademarked We, and then he sold the trademark, I think for millions of dollars back to the company.
Yeah.
Zjedź w lewo.
That will give me real pause. Because this to me has less to do with Was your vision exactly right? Were you maybe a little on the optimistic side when you sold the company? I think that's completely understandable. But moves like that will give me real hesitation, real pause. And so what I'm thinking about when I look at the new company is basically he bought a large number of apartments, and now investors are investing in the idea that rents could be even higher because these apartments are somehow more valuable than the current market price would suggest. That seems not an unreasonable idea, but I would think, you want to do business with this person? Frankly, not me.
Yeah. And me, what did you make of it?
I love the way that you articulated that, Felix. If you were to defend Adam Newman, what you would say is that the truth is most startups fail. Most founders fail.
Right.
And there is a very common thing we refer to as a serial entrepreneur who tries one thing and then another thing and then another thing. So put another way, if you look at some of the most successful founders out there, many of them failed in their first act, in their second act.
Yep.
And they only succeeded in their third or fourth act. And in the world of business, and particularly in the world of entrepreneurship, we talk about learning from failure all the time. So if we mean what we say, a past failure should not be disqualifying. In fact, we should be celebrating people who take risks and are willing to fail.
Right.
And I think in this case, it also says a little bit something about the state of venture capital today, which is that some of these venture funds are getting so big that in order to generate a return on the fund, you have to make these huge bets. You have to deploy a lot of capital in a short amount of time, which means you have to write huge checks, which means you are specifically looking for founders who are building ventures with an extreme amount of audacity. And say what you will about Adam Newman, he does not do
Za 3 kilometry zjedź w prawo.
small things. And then also, by the way, housing is a big problem to be solved.
Right.
But, so then you say, well, why does this one make you uncomfortable? And the reason I think this one makes me uncomfortable is exactly what Felix said. There is such a thing as failing well, failing with integrity, failing in a way that it's clear to everyone that you made some mistakes along the way, maybe strategic, maybe execution, but you did it in a way where you can still hold your head up high and say, look, every decision I ever made, I made in the best interest of the company and its shareholders. I never tried to mislead anyone. I was never irresponsible with the funds under my care. I never betrayed the trust people put in me. I never treated people poorly, and so on and so on. And in Adam Newman's case, I don't know, the missteps went beyond mismanagement. They seem to reveal something deeper, and that makes me very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, Youngmi. For me, the lesson is a little bit about Adam Newman, but it's really about the venture capital industry, in a way.
Yeah.
This story is
Za 1 kilometr zjedź w prawo.
really about why and how does Andreessen Horowitz think it's okay to overlook the things that are causing you hesitation and causing Felix hesitation. And I think the first part of your answer is right, which is they got to deploy a lot of capital.
They do.
This is the biggest check they've ever written.
Yeah, but this is a question for you. If you have a fund size
Zjedź w prawo.
that is in the tens of billions of dollars, and you have to deploy this capital in, I don't know, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
Where do you put it? You can't write $20 million checks.
Za 400 metrów skręć w lewo.
Can't.
You have to start writing 100, 200, $300 million checks, right?
That's exactly right, except that's exactly where we were
Skręć w lewo.
several years ago with SoftBank, and we saw how that has ended.
Yes.
And the lure of writing those big checks is incredible because of the fees and because of everything else. But I don't know, I confess, I think this is a little bit of an indictment of where the industry is today, in the sense of overlooking the things that are bothering us and putting such a premium on this idea of talent, which is there are very few founders out there, and there's a special person, and that person is so special, and his name is Adam Newman, that we can overlook all this stuff.
Za 600 metrów na rondzie drugi zjazd.
And I just think that's problematic. I don't know. It feels to me like a symptom of a deep problem in the industry, more than anything else.
One of the things that both of you guys talked about the very first time we discussed WeWork, if you remember, I think we were all quite down on it, even during the glory days of WeWork. But I think both of you mentioned that essentially WeWork was a REIT
Yeah.
and just cloaked in the vernacular of a technology company.
Right.
And if you look at this new venture called Flow, it also looks like a real estate investment trust.